your own lying eyes. All right, folks, we got big breaking news. What is their next plan to sabotage the Trump administration? We've got it.
It's Thursday, December 19th, 2024. I'm taping this and uploading it to X at 10:40 Central Standard Time. This is a maximum tyranny alert. The Democrats, as I predicted, are announcing emergencies in different cities and counties, including California declaring an emergency over bird flu. I'll be on the air with Owen Schroyer at 11 a.m. in just a few minutes, breaking all this down. It coincides with other pandemic rollouts in areas of Europe, Australia, and more. This is the globalist move. They admit it's their move. They've bragged it's meant to block the global populist victories in Canada and the UK and Germany. We are taking the planet by storm. The Great Awakening is here now. But inside Congress, in this continual resolution mass spending bill that Trump and Musk and Vance have decried, there is the most tyrannical medical tyranny you've ever seen. Forced lockdowns, forced injections, quarantining of people against their will, including political dissidents. Everything that's in the UN treaty that they couldn't get past is in this. And, of course, it's been Biden and his people that actually wrote the UN treaty that's come out. So this is huge. They're making their move with Disease X right now, saying it's in the milk, saying it's in the chickens. It's all made-up crap, saying there's human cases. If you read deep, it's all made-up crap. They're making their move, but people aren't as naive as they were 5 years ago. This is meant to block the Trump agenda and block populism everywhere. This is disgusting, and you've got to call Speaker Johnson and say, do not pass that. Do not pass that. Bare minimum, pull that medical tyranny, quote, COVID pandemic powers out of there. They're using the last pandemic law Congress passed for secretly injecting kids in public and private schools and not telling their parents. In 7 states, Supreme Courts have said they can inject your kids illegally without your consent, and they don't get in trouble. This is a medical power grab. This is tyranny. Follow us at Real Alex Jones on X. Get the live feed that's launching here in just a few minutes, 11 a.m. Central. I filed a detailed report of all of this and more. Damn it. This is disgusting. Lockdowns, masks, forced injections, all of it. Don't let them do it.
Alex, we are now live inside the InfoWars World Headquarters on this Thursday, December 19th, 2024. And they're going to push this pandemic, and they're going to use it instead of on the back end of Trump's term. Now they're going to use it to sabotage the front end. So I say, what are the telltale signs? What will people be able to look at and see, okay, this is what they're trying to do? I'm going to read for you dozens, probably over 30 headlines, and I'll tell you the source as well so you can see it, so you can get full spectrum here. All the mainstream news, this is all in the last 24 hours, telling you another pandemic is coming. We're going to intertwine that into what was in the continued resolution bill yesterday that is now dead on arrival. They didn't even get a vote on it. Speaker Johnson is removing himself from political events now. It's a complete disaster. We'll have all that, but it intertwines with that because they had pandemic response in there. They had mask mandates. They had vaccine mandates. They had the medical tyranny cooked into this bill that would have ushered in all the pandemic tyranny that they're now promoting in the mainstream news. So you see, it was the two-pronged attack before Trump even gets into office. Boom, you hit them all with the pandemic. Boom, you hit him with the continued resolution that brings in the legislation for the medical tyranny. Then his term begins, then the pandemic begins, and then they just crush. They don't even let him get his feet on the ground. They just crush everything before it even starts. Crush everything before it even starts. We cannot let this happen. And if you look at how we had a huge victory stopping this continued resolution yesterday, we can have a big victory on this as well. But it has to be heard. It has to be heard by the same millions of Americans that voiced their opinions loud and clear yesterday that stopped this bill from being passed. And then we're going to close the door. And this is where it gets even more eerie, with Peter Hotez saying, day one of Trump's administration, there's going to be a pandemic. And we all remember the Simpsons clip. Somehow the Simpsons predicts all this stuff. I don't know if Matt Groening has a time machine or what it is. But if you remember in that clip, there was a certain thing that they said specifically was going to cause the next pandemic. Well, guess what's in the headlines I'm about to read? That exact thing. So here we go. I'm going to tell you the source of these headlines, and I'm going to read for you probably 2-3 dozen headlines right now, all in the last 24 hours, telling you there's a pandemic coming. And remember, as you're hearing this, they were supposed to pass this continued resolution that had all the medical tyranny cooked into it. So it would have been, here comes the pandemic, here's the medical tyranny, Trump's administration begins, pandemic begins, medical tyranny takes place, they crush him before it even starts. But we're going to get ahead of it and we're going to stop it. Here we go. Washington Post. U.S. sees first severe case of bird flu in Louisiana. This is all last 24 hours. Okay, Washington Post, bird flu, Louisiana. CNN, America's first severe case of bird flu in Louisiana. Wisconsin.gov, DHS reports presumptive positive human case of highly pathogenic avian influenza in Wisconsin. That's bird flu. NPR, California declares bird flu emergency. First severe case found in Louisiana. Bird flu update. California declares emergency. Reuters, which just got caught being funded for government propaganda. Reuters, U.S. suffers first severe human case of bird flu. California declares emergency. Business Insider, state of emergency. H5N1 avian bird flu virus, human outbreak, pandemic concerns. The bird flu outbreak keeps getting more worrying. Could be a pandemic. Newsom declares state of emergency in California after severe bird flu case. That's the LA Times. Al Jazeera, why has California declared a state of emergency over bird flu? CBS News, California Governor Gavin Newsom declares state of emergency over bird flu, calls it a proactive action. State of emergency. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. New York Times, California declares an emergency over bird flu in cattle. Oh, it's in your milk. It's in your meat. The Guardian. And here's where it gets weird. 2 California house cats die from bird flu as 3 more appear to be infected. Let's just shelve that for a second, shall we? Bloomberg, what to know about bird flu and pandemic fears. ABC News, CDC confirms first case of severe bird flu. National Geographic, bird flu cases rising in the U.S. Here's why you should worry. 2 ways bird flu could cause a human pandemic. Scientific American, the next viral pandemic is coming. Here's how we can stop it. Flu is a real pandemic threat. Are we prepared for the worst? NBC, CDC reports severe case of bird flu. CBS, CDC confirms first severe case of bird flu. Time Magazine, severe bird flu in the United States. Follow for latest updates. A zoonotic infection, which has stoked fears of becoming the next global pandemic. New York Times, how worried should we be about bird flu? It's a state of emergency. Outbreak amongst cows. Medscape, surveillance and ongoing concern, H5N1 in the United States. Fierce Biotech, mRNA vaccine protects ferrets from current bird flu strain. Oh, they're testing their mRNA again on you. Well, on ferrets right now. Oh, they'll have a nice vaccine for you. Medical Express, research underscores critical need for bird flu vaccines for pregnant women. For pregnant women. Yeah, that's familiar, isn't it? The pregnant women need the vaccine. The Guardian, women and unborn babies face severe fatality risk in bird flu pandemic. Pregnant women. And now it's an unborn baby, though. Did you see that? Now it's an unborn baby. Before it's just a fetus, a clump of cells. Now it's an unborn baby, though. Now, when they want to force you to take the vaccine, now it's an unborn baby. Okay. All right. Telegraph. UK buys 5 million vaccine shots to prepare for H5N1 pandemic. New York Times. Iran Operation Warp Speed. I'm concerned about the bird flu. He ran Operation Warp Speed, says the New York Times writer David Kessler. He ran Operation Warp Speed. He says he's concerned about the bird flu. MSNBC, why the threat of bird flu makes this presidential transition problematic. Oh, the bird flu makes the presidential transition problematic. How perfect. Perfect. First time the timing was perfect, right up before the election to crush the economy and cause social distress, blame it all on Trump, steal the election. Perfect timing. This go around, they're just going to do it right before his inauguration and just crush his incoming administration before it even starts. Telegraph, why cats are the new pigs and could spark the next pandemic. Daily Star, why scientists think your house cat could spark the next global pandemic. And then The Guardian, 2 California house cats die from bird flu as 3 more appear to be infected. So let's do this. I just ran through all the mainstream headlines all the last 24 hours telling you bird flu pandemic is coming. We have the clip of Peter Hotez saying, oh, on January 21st, there's going to be a wave of pandemics. It's going to hit the Trump administration. Oh, how convenient, because that's how science and viruses work. They just pick a date and they say, we're launching on this date. Or maybe they say, hey, there's a new incoming administration, so let's cause a pandemic then. I mean, that's what viruses are doing, running around scheming like that, according to Peter Hotez. But hold on a second. Cats could spark the next pandemic? House cats dying from bird flu could cause the next pandemic? The Simpsons, famous for predicting things. We thought that they were predicting it in 2020. Maybe we were just 5 years early. Here's that famous Simpsons prediction. Little reminder one more time.
This secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials. NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except in...
So we've got our deadly disease. Now we just have to blame it on something that's in every household. Flu is coming, people. The Center for Disease Disinformation predicts with some degree of probability that the house cat flu might spread in the following hypothetical outbreak pattern.
Okay, here's something less funny. Here's vaccine pusher, big pharma shill, quite strange individual, Peter Hotez, saying, oh, yep, soon as Trump becomes president, there's going to be more virus outbreaks, because that's how science works.
Here's the reason why we need to care about this stuff, Nicole, is that we have some big picture stuff coming down the pike starting on January 21st. Mr. Bloomberg mentioned H5N1. That I'm really worried about. It's all over wild birds on the western part of the United States and going up in the north. It's getting into the poultry. We're seeing sporadic human cases, no human-to-human transmission yet, but that could happen. It's in the cattle, it's in the milk, and that's just the beginning. We have another major coronavirus likely brewing in Asia. We've had SARS in 2002, SARS-2, COVID-19 in 2019. And we know these viruses are jumping from bats to people thousands of times a year. But there's still more. We know that we have a big problem with mosquito-transmitted viruses all along the Gulf Coast, where I am here in Texas. So we're expecting dengue and possibly Zika virus coming back, or a Puche virus, maybe even yellow fever. And there's more. Then we have all this sharp rise in vaccine-preventable diseases going up because of, in part, the anti-vaccine activism that's so prominent right now. We have a 5-fold rise in production.
You see the narrative that they're setting up here with all the headlines, all the predictions. And then in the continued resolution, multiple instances here of them cooking this up to be ready for a pandemic. The spending bill would have blocked RFK Jr. from updating HHS protocol on vaccine injuries, so they would have forced you to take the vaccine, and then you wouldn't have been able to sue, just like Biden extended that. You also have an entire section, pandemic and all hazards, preparedness and response, with all kinds of medical tyranny in there, masks, vaccines, lockdowns. And then you had 12 grants for 12 new biolabs as well. They had new biolabs that they were going to fund and run, which is, of course, where the first virus and pandemic came out of that they lied to you about. And by the way, that Russian general that got killed in Moscow a few days ago, he was the original Russian general and scientist who was calling out the Ukrainian biolabs and sent in the Russian military to shut them down. So, you got that going on too. Now, I got these other headlines, but that's kind of just an aside. They really want to scare you with bird flu, wreck the incoming Trump administration day one, declare a pandemic. Now, the real threat is they could release a deadly virus and not just do a total fear-mongering scam like they did in 2020. They could release a real virus, and that could be worse. But they want to get ahead of this next incoming administration. They don't want to